all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science comic book preview show. And I'm a little late. We just ended up doing our Marvel review show. Me and Dr. Matt recorded a couple books, which I'll probably mention tonight as we go through this. But before we do go on with the show, I just want to let everybody know that when I go through these previews, they're just previews that I've cherry picked out to kind of go with what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, it's not what everybody else is looking forward to. So if you are looking forward to some other books, maybe some hidden gems, let everybody know by putting it in the comments below. We're also doing this live, so I'm sure I'll be mentioning some things from the chat as well. If there are some people, I saw that Edward is in the chat already. But with that, I usually do end up having the show start at 9. Did mention last night during the best of show that I might end up starting it a little bit later because, again, we were going to be talking about our Marvel stuff. We end up doing the Marvel podcast and we got started late. So I ended up knowing things were having problems, adjusted the start time and still couldn't make it. So that's what happens. That is what happens when you do these sort of things. But we'll get on with this. And I will tell you right off the bat, doing that Marvel podcast, I am not in a good mood. So there is a little hint of what I thought of some of these Marvel books this week. But here we go. We usually and will start with DC Comics. DC Comics, because it's a 5th week of comics for the month of, I believe we're in April. Are we in April? You have 5 weeks of comics, and that is always a annuals week for DC. Marvel doesn't really play that game. They just throw whatever to the wind. They throw whatever sticks on that wall. They will throw it there. But if you aren't aware and you are a fan maybe, or somebody who listens to our DC Comics podcast, I hate to say fan, but if you do listen to our DC Comics podcast, this week will end up being Patreon only. We do that only during annuals weeks, and this one being an annuals week, as I said, that'll be Patreon only. You can easily go over to the Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 to listen to that show. As they say, $1 makes you holler. At least you can get $1 to listen to me holler. But you get that, or if you haven't already, you can go over and get a 7-day free trial and end up listening to a ton of things even before that exclusive show comes out. But here we go with DC. And the first one is a book that I'll be talking with my man Gray. And it's something that he asked me if I would review with him. And I said, why not? And ended up really liking it. And actually, it's my favorite Jeff Loeb book that's coming out from DC at this moment. It is Batman The Long Halloween, the last Halloween, number 7. It's written by Jeff Loeb, art by Dave Johnson, this one. And it's $4.99. And I didn't say it before, but what I usually do in this show is I'll give you the title, the creative team, the price, and then we'll read the solicit and maybe make fun of it. Sometimes that's what we do here. In 1996, writer Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale teamed up for Batman The Long Halloween, an award-winning 13-chapter saga that spawned multiple sequels and stands as the most influential Batman story of its era. Now, Loeb returns to the world of The Long Halloween, its long-anticipated final act, Batman The Last Halloween. That's all it should have been called. The whole Batman The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, it doesn't roll off the tongue. It just should have been Batman The Last Halloween. But an all-new 10-part mystery, continuing the story from 2021's The Long Halloween special. In each issue, Loeb will be joined by one of the top artists in comics in a beautiful and lovingly crafted tribute to Sale's art. I think they've done a really good job with that as well. And legacy. Batman, Robin, and the GCPD's hunt for the mysterious killer savage in Gotham's underworld heats up, it says. So all of that is the hype of what this is, and then you get one sentence that the killer savage in Gotham's underworld, it heats up. So we'll get that, but I'm looking forward to it. I actually have really liked that. I've enjoyed it, and I'm looking at the comments now in the live deal. You have Gray who says, hello, love. If I knew Gray was going to jump in, he'd be on here with me. How dare you, Gray? I'm giving you a how dare you, the way you are.
How dare
But yeah,
you?
me and Gray will be talking about Batman: The Last Halloween, which it should be called that. We've actually been enjoying it. And you end up having Retro Americana says, "Hey, where is your store located? I'm guessing you sell online." Yeah, I don't know what he means. I sometimes I sell some things. It's kind of sus. I shouldn't go into it here, but I needed the money, is what they say. Edward says Savage Sword of Conan, World's Finest Annual, and Wolverine Kitty Pryde. I will tell you, Ed, that I'll be reviewing 2 of 3 of those. I'm going to be doing Wolverine Kitty Pryde, something I wasn't planning on doing, but I think me and Jason are going to end up reviewing that on the Marvel show. Also, Lane says, so I finally read Hush 2 Part 2. I don't get why people are crapping on it. Seemed pretty decent issue to me. That's one of the things with that is people can't get past the idea that Batman not only picked up a gun, and I kind of thought it was a little odd too, but actually shot Jason in the head, even though he knew the mask would take it. It just was odd, but he's desperate. He's whacked out. But yeah, and Lane says he's only picking up 2 books this week. Naysayer says Savage Sword rules, and other books drool, I would say. That's what I say. And Retro Americana says, I love World's Finest. World's Finest is one of those. I liked it a lot more when it started, and then it kind of petered out a little for me. But I'm liking the beginnings to this event, so I'm kind of digging that as well. But we'll move on with the next book, and the next book is, let me get this if it can load up. I'm getting these off of the Comic Book Roundup. And as I go, I don't know if everybody even goes to that site anymore. It's a site that I always went to, and I at one point knew, not personally, but by name, almost every reviewer. I used to review stuff, written reviews as well, but I would read every review. I haven't been doing that much, but when I end up going to the Comic Book Roundup, and why I do is because it's separating the companies. I do actually go to League of Comic Book Geeks for a lot of things as well, but it's easier through this. But somehow the formatting is always off, and words are jammed into each other. If you hear me kind of stutter or pause, it is because I'm a dummy, but it's also because of this page. It's driving me nuts. Detective Comics Annual 2025, probably annual number 1. I hate the way that they redid the way they spelled it out. I don't like it. But it's written by Al Ewing, Joshua Hale Felkoff. I'm not a huge Al Ewing fan, but I always like to see when a new writer, and a pretty big writer, jumps, companies and then works on some of the big books like a Batman. So I'm interested in that. It's $5.99. Batman, do not solve my murder. Those are the words written in blood that the world's greatest detective has found next to the body of a dead billionaire. Clues are few in this dead man's home, save for a book with the alarming title, How to End the Universe. Now armed only with questions, Batman must set off to England to solve a murder against the deceased wishes. Then writer Joshua Hale Felkoff, and that they say then they should have really spelled out, that's the Al Ewing story. Then writer Joshua Hale Felkoff and artist Mike Norton bring you a tale of Batman teaming up with one of the most brilliant deductive minds in Gotham, David Rosales, 7th grader. That sounds like nonsense, but I do like Joshua Hale Felkoff, so I think that might be cool. Something tells me that Batman might solve the case, not David Rosales. Though the way things play out, David Rosales probably will. David Rosales, everybody's favorite 7th grade detective. Lane says bleep annuals. Yeah, so we end up where we're going, and it says that Lane says, feels like Jim is having to do like Old Horn Shopping Network salesperson. I actually at one point was on, I forget what channel it was. Me and Eric were asked to go on to help push a couple books for some guy. I forget what it was. We were on TV, though. It was pretty funny. And this lady who introduced, I actually at some point, I'll try to dig it up because I have the sound bite. Her name was Christine, so I could see if I labeled it like that. The way that she said our website was like the worst thing that you could ever have. It was so funny that she thought it was. It's not under Christine, I guess, unless I spoke Christine wrong. It's very possible, but it was really funny the way that she ended up doing it. Let me see. I'm going to do all this, and I still will not find it. I have a feeling, but I'll get it by the end, hopefully. Nope, I don't have it because I can't remember. It was some company that had us do it, and I don't remember. So maybe I won't find it by the end. Who Dat Nation 12 says, howdy, Jim, howdy. And also says, when I first got into comics, I loved annuals. Now it seems like the big two don't give them much of a thought. I remember the first annual that I really actually, I think I bought, but I actually was into. It was, I believe, Flash. It was either Flash or Green Lantern annual because it was a duo. They ended up teaming up. It was the New 52, and it was pretty cool. Flash used the ring. It was pretty neat. Did some crazy constructs. I believe it was Flash, but somebody might know better. And Fear Monarch says, next Savage Sword will be hype. Liam Sharp has a story. Yeah, I hate to admit it. I'm not a big fan of Liam Sharp. I'm not a huge fan at all. But I know that people do love him and his art. Not me. But that's just me because I'm now getting back to the solicits here. And what is this? That TV thing was Big Deep Cut. You were less than 15 shows in. Yeah, it wasn't very long. I will tell you one of the deep cuts of it. I've talked about it before. What was it called? I can't remember. It's a company that's pretty big that we went on, and I remember having to pretend, because I didn't want to screw the guy up, but I had to pretend that I liked a Jay Lee cover for the Batman Superman World's Finest, and also that I was looking forward to a Princess Leia solo, that solo book she had that I was like, oh man, I love that Princess Leia. It was pretty funny. But one of the biggest deep cuts is that when we did that, well, two things. They said, okay, it'll be Tuesday at midnight, but me and Eric somehow thought that meant Wednesday. We got so screwed up. We almost didn't show. And then they got a hold of us. We were not ready. And we're like, oh, crap. And we had to go do it. It was pretty funny because we got things wrong at that midnight deal. And also, when we did it about an hour and a half after I said goodbye to my dad on his deathbed. Oh, my goodness. So then we went and did that. I'm like, sayonara, sucker. I got things to do. Edward says, I'm in on The Longest Halloween, but must finish OG series first. Never read it. It is really good, actually. When you have the hype for Hush 2, you realize that a lot of that hype is Jim Lee art because the story, Long Halloween, is way better. And there was not really any hype for this last Halloween, which I think is really good. But we'll continue on. Now I'm all out of sorts here. But when you go forward here, we got the next one, and it is, as I try to load this up, this is the worst. Batman Superman World's Finest Annual 2025. Mark Waid, Christopher Cantwell, and Morgan Hampton, with art by Dave McDade and Clayton Henry. Morgan Hampton as a backup that we'll see with John Stewart. Christopher Cantwell, or Can't Write Well, seems to be involved in the main story, which I would wonder why. I don't think that guy is good at all. He did the Challengers of the Unknown book that did end up having a bunch of Omega energy time travel at the end, but boy, that book stunk. It stunk on ice. This is $5.99. That's the problem with the annuals, is the price. But We Are Yesterday, Part 3 of 6, the secret origin of the single most unholy union in DCU history is at last revealed. No, they already revealed it like twice. The Legion of Doom has set in motion a scheme to lay waste to not only the world's finest team, but to the present-day Justice League Unlimited. How is this possible? All will be revealed in the special World's Finest Annual. We already know this. We know that it's Mark Waid, Christopher Cantwell, and Dan McDade. Plus, meet John Stewart, the newest ring slinger of Sector 2814 in this definitive World's Finest telling of John Stewart's Lantern origins. Like, we need that from Morgan Hampton. But Morgan Hampton, part of the deal of the Green Lantern Corps, one of my favorite books going right now. I'm taking Morgan Hampton's Cyborg book. That was pure and utter garbage. But I like that Green Lantern Corps. I know Jeremy Adams is, doing it with him, but I'm pretty sure that Jeremy Adams is giving the story and he's writing it. He's doing a damn good job. That book really is good. But if you haven't read that Cyborg book, do yourself a favor. Don't. Fear Monarch says that Liam Sharp is greater than Liam Gallagher, but is Liam Gallagher better than West Coast Gallagher? It's the real question there. Who would know? But yeah, I don't know. What was that Star book, that crazy book that he did at Image? I can't even remember what it was called. Me and Rocky did it on we had an indie podcast that I think that made me quit the indie podcast at that point. I couldn't take it. Oh my. But we'll continue on. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I'm telling you, this the way that this is set up and everything's slow. That is it for DC. That is all I have listed for DC at the moment. And it's Annuals Week. There's not a lot coming out. So maybe you're looking forward to a couple other things, but those are the things that I'll be looking forward to. What I'm looking forward to is not having a 7.5 hour podcast. That'd be nice. I love doing these long shows. And in fact, a lot of people here, because it wasn't just me. There's people like Fear Monarch and Brandon, if he's out there, everybody, the idea of that 4.5 hour live stream. But the best thing about that was when it was done, it was done. I didn't have to touch it. I didn't have to edit. When you end up recording 10 books with pretty much 8 people, and then you have to edit it and realize that you start at like 3 p.m. in the afternoon and not get done until 6 a.m. the next day, you realize things have gone wrong. And there was a lot of noise. Everything that could have went wrong, but we got it out. We did get it out. But boy, it was a labor of love. It was killing me. I was so tired. It pretty much ruined my yesterday as well. Starhenge, that's what it was. Yeah, I liked it at first, and then I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening here. But to continue going with this, Wakazashi, Tea House, who was great, says it's great until you have to go edit the show. It's true. I did not realize how great it was to do live streams and just do it, talk about nonsense, and get the hell out and go to bed. That is the key. That is key. Though I'll tell you now, maybe you hear a little pep in my step right now, because I am doing a keto diet. I've been doing it for about a week now, and I've been drinking a lot of bulletproof coffee. And boy, that stuff gets me charged. I am charged up. And JR says the long podcasts are appreciated. That's the real reason that I like doing them. I actually was kind of upset at one point when we were doing smaller shows. And I thought, you know what? We're doing what we can. There's not a lot of books. And then Eric left, and I realized, wait a second, there are more books. And I like doing the longer podcasts. First off, because I like to rub it in people's faces when I see it on Twitter and they're like, man, we just had a marathon podcast, 3.5 hours. So then I could type, that's a cute podcast you have. Like a jerk. But actually, one point when we first started, two things happened. A person did say to me at one point, oh man, I wish your podcasts were longer. I have a day at work and I end up listening, but then, it's not. And then we actually started doing longer, not just because of that, but we started doing longer podcasts, and people did legit reach out and say, you actually got me through a whole day. And that kind of is cool. I actually like doing that. I like to, do things like that and get people through the day, just thinking that they're like, really, you're listening to us the whole day. But it was a shame when we stopped doing the longer shows, but they're back. They're back with a vengeance. And in the meantime, if you are on the Patreon, and this isn't even, well, it might be a commercial, but the idea, not only do we have a 7.5 hour podcast, we also end up where on the regular feed, you can listen to the over hour Absolute show. And then we have the Patreon Spotlight that was like an hour and a half, sometimes up to 2 hours. So legit at this point, we're like pumping out like 10-hour stuff. So that's pretty cool. And Edward said, where was the cyborg warning 2 years ago? Thanks, Jim. You want to know where it was? On the podcast, when I was yelling and screaming at Eric every issue. Eric kept telling me, I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. And that's one of the things that I really, really was upset was last week that Eric wasn't on the show. Only because when Lex blasts that dirty clone, I was all for it. Me and Eric during that cyborg thing had so much of a fight where Eric's like, I don't know, I think AI being sentient, it has a soul. I'm like, you get out of town. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. See, that's why I think he quit, because I'd say stuff like that. But we argued about that book. Like, he was giving it 8s and I was giving it 2s. Let's move on to Marvel. What does Marvel have in store for us this week? I already told you that I just got done recording a couple books over at the Marvel Podcast. I'll tell you in a minute what those were, but I will be continuing recording stuff with Jason and also Gray, which I'm looking forward to because maybe those books will be good. The first book, though, that I'm going to talk about looking forward to is a Ben Percy joint. I might have Gray maybe slip this in with me, but it's Red Hulk #3. It is a tie-in to One World Under Doom, but the best thing about it is it does nothing at all with One World Under Doom. And usually that will piss me off. But it pisses me off when you don't get involved, you're a tie-in. So if you don't get involved in the whole event, you better be good in a separate way. And there's some books, say, like Doom Academy, that is just a wreck overall. But I like this Red Hulk. I think it's pretty cool. It's very contained within its story, and you could read it as just its own mini-series. It's written by Ben Percy with Jeff Shaw art. I believe Jeff Shaw might have done that Donny Cates Paybacks book that I keep pushing to. $3.99. That price is good. I'm fine with $3.99. Remember when it was toe the line at $2.99? Those days are over. That was more of a DC thing. Hunted by Doom. Thunderbolt Ross has escaped Dr. Doom's dungeon, but the wounded general is too weak to turn to the Red Hulk. That is true. This is a bullet point solicit. In the hostile snowbound Latverian mountains, Ross, Machine Man, and Deathlock are relentlessly chased by an army of Doombots. Remember, if you did read the last issue, I believe it was this book. Was it this book where you ended up having that giant kaiju? Will the hero survive this issue's explosive ending? We can only hope. But I have been liking it. I think it's my favorite of the tie-ins. Some people have brought up that they think the Thunderbolts one is that we might talk about later. But the next book is Ultimate Spider-Man, #16. You know it. You love it. It's everybody's favorite book except mine. It is the Ultimate Spider-Man, #16, though I've taken a peek at it. Me and Gray are going to be reviewing it. I've taken a peek, and all I have to tell you, I won't spoil anything, but I will say, I told you so. All of those people, all those naysayers out there that were telling me I was ridiculous. I had some people, what happens in it? I said, it's definitely what happened. Nobody believed me. I'm always right. It's written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Marco Cicchetto. It is $4.99. The secret origin of Mysterio. Even Kingpin knows little about the criminal in the smoky helmet. Never thought of it as a smoky helmet. He's kind of smoke around. But Spider-Man's about to learn more than he bargained for. Not really. Not really. We'll learn more than we bargained for, but also you'll say, oh my God, Jim was right. Jim was, he was right. 100% right. Not 100%, but about 90%. 90% right. It's pretty good. Going back to the chat, Brandon said that clone had it coming. I still keep getting people were arguing with me when I put the podcast out, but one guy agreed with me. But I did say, and I'll still say it, what were you going to do with that dirty clone of Lex? It was falling apart. It was ripping apart. It was starting to go bizarro. It was threatening to kill everyone. If you don't kill it, what will you do with it? Because the only thing that anybody's ever going to think that you could do with it is put it in the Phantom Zone, and they don't like doing that right now. But if you do that, you might as well kill them, that Phantom Zone. Or you could put him in a work release program, right? He could go and, I don't know, work at a school or something. Maybe he could be a janitor. That'd work out. That'd work out great. Like, there's nothing you could have done with it. It's a shame. It's awful. But also think of the ramifications. Lex is shooting himself. I mean, he's there. That would probably mess him up a bit if it wasn't Lex. But still, it just, I don't know. I think that it's really, really just the idea that they're really wanting to push Superman to cause Lex to go bad again, because he still kind of could be good, but he's going to say, I can never win. I can never win. Lane says, Jim, true excuse to yell about comic books, the truth at the heart of why he loves comics. It is true. I get to come out and yell about them and yell about random things and just say things. And says, Lane also says, so Wes and Doc did agree to hop on the Leah Williams Express to review Gotham City Sirens Volume 2. I told you. I told you they would. I'm telling you, that's going to be a disaster. Brandon says, Marvel broke me last month with One World Under Doom. We have many months left, and I'm so insanely bored. I'm on full Marvel buying pause. And One World Under Doom. I said the idea of One World Under Doom if you stop reading it, will you get the trade? Because some people will say, like, listen, this is, the story's going a little slow. I'd rather wait till the trade saves some money. But that story is just nothing. It's all over the place. And I will be releasing our Marvel podcast tonight. And we talk about that Amazing Spider-Man. Me and Gray do a couple books, including Spider-Man versus Predator. So that'll be coming out. But I did not like the One World Under Doom. And Lane says Red Hulk is supposed to be an ongoing, not a miniseries. I mean, it will end up being a 10-issue miniseries. Yeah, you can tell. And I didn't even know. I just thought it was a tie-in. Now, again, you say that, but a tie-in, if you have a tie-in that starts at the beginning of the One World Under Doom, that's a 9-month thing. It's a 9-issue series. So it's still kind of the tie-in. That'll probably just end, like you said, when that ends. You'll get like a final issue after that. And Lane says something that is, I'll just say, and again, if you're in the chat, whatnot, maybe. But yeah, I ended up saying things about Mysterio was what I really said and how that was going to play out. And yeah, Brandon says he's read the July solicits. Marvel isn't getting any better. No. And that's the thing. Lane says that Chip Zdarsky's answer for Evil Clones. I'm looking forward to Chip Zdarsky's Captain America. That's about the only thing I'm really looking forward to. But, yeah. And Brandon continues. Yeah, that One World Under Doom just makes the heroes look like morons. But let's get back to what we're looking forward to. I actually, back in the day is like a couple months ago. That's, to me, when you don't have much time left on this planet, that's how you do things, right? You live for the day, and back in the day is a couple weeks ago. I used to say that I rarely would go into the previews. I'd always be positive, say, hey, let's see what's going on. I'm telling you, I'm in a bad mood tonight. I just ended up doing that Marvel podcast, and it really threw me. Next deal is Wolverine and Kitty Pryde #1. It is Chris Claremont with art by Damian Cucchiaro, and I do not know that artist's name, but I saw that artist's art. It's rough, but I'm looking forward to this. I've liked a bunch of the Chris Claremont stuff that have come out recently, so I am going to be reviewing this with Jason, who does our X-Men show on our big network of shows, a family, not a network, actually, but it's $3.99. I'm looking forward to this. Claremont returns to the fan favorite duo. When Kitty Pryde nearly lost her soul to Ogun during her journey to Japan, Logan was there to help keep the youngest X-Man on the path to good. But as a mysterious force threatens their lives while staying with Americo Yashada, it's going to take all of their combined mutant ninja and fighting skills to protect those they love. An all-new adventure set in the aftermath of Chris Claremont's legendary Kitty Pryde and Wolverine limited series at last tells the full story of the duo's journey to Japan before returning to the X-Men and the heartbreak, trials, and tribulations that made and I have to hit more here, it made the characters what they are today. Note, multiple characters' first appearances are in this issue in a weird retroactively way that doesn't really to go right with collectors, I would think, but they're really trying to push that, right? You can tell things are tough when you do that, but I'm looking forward to it. I think that a lot of the Chris Claremont stuff recently was really, really cool, but the art was cool as well. This art's a little rough. So a lot of the things that I read this week had some rough art. The next one is Godzilla versus Spider-Man #1, and not to spoil anything, and not to go crazy and get upset or whatnot. That's one of the books that I just came from reviewing. And Alan just said, good evening, Jim, and good evening to you, Alan, as well. Fear Monarch says, I'm looking forward to the Skybound Transformers Deluxe Edition coming out. I know a lot of people are. I saw some people and Fear Monarch talking in the Slack about it, I think it was at one point, and it's not that I pish-posh on the Transformers. I understand how big they are and how people love them. I just never got into them myself. That was just it. And I think it was one of the things, and I did jump on to the Skybound deal. It almost felt like, for me, it's almost like the G.I. Joe as well, but that almost was like a New 52 way of doing it, where I'm like, okay, well, I know where to start now. #1, we'll get forward with it. And I realized as I was reading it, though I did start to learn some things, but it's definitely for people who know or are in the know, at least know something Transformers. Like, I'm looking for Shia LaBeouf. I didn't find him. And even then, I never saw a second of him in the movies. I just know he was in them. But in the meantime, when you would end up, I keep saying this just as a way to apologize to everybody and try so they don't yell at me. But when you would end an issue and people were like saying to me before, oh my God, did you read Transformers? You're not going to believe the last page. And I'd get the last page and I couldn't believe it because I didn't know what was going to, I'm like, who's that? And then I have to look up. And the worst is because sometimes when you would do that, they wouldn't name, it wasn't like every time a character would show up, they're like, oh no, Megatron, like something like that. So I'm actually searching for things, and I actually take pride in my ability to search for very obscure things, right? Like my soul. But I end up where I'm like, Transformer who has this on there and looks like he has kind of a half of an eye that also looks like he's got a beard. I didn't get anything, nothing at all. So I ended up like, oh man. I'm done. Yeah, so I had problems. And I ended up having to drop it because I think it was at one point somebody ended up like calling me out, like, man, you don't know anything about Transformers, you moron. I'm like, I say it every time, but yeah, I thought, who am I impressing by doing this? Though, last couple of weeks ago, a guy ended up getting on our YouTube video and started really ripping into me and Simon about the Sonic book because we said something, but the thing was, the whole play was we were talking about something DC. He thought that we meant something Sonic and was like, oh, what are you guys, idiots? You don't know this, that, and the other thing, whatever. You said something about Mobius. There's no, I'm like, what are you talking about? I got mad. I made that guy disappear from the channel, though, because I'm like, whatever. Like, you really come off as a dick here. But yeah. I probably did as well. Godzilla versus Spider-Man #1. Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly writing a Spider-Man? That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Godzilla? Oh, my. Art by Nick Bradshaw. $4.99. I've liked these Godzilla books for what they are. That ended this week. Round 3 versus The Amazing Spider-Man. And again, just to go through this here. I'm not spoiling anything, but you end up where the Fantastic Four is fighting Spider-Man. Or Spider-Man fighting Godzilla. Okay. I mean, they fuck Galactus. Oh, that can work. The Hulk versus Godzilla. Now you can say to me, well, that Jim, they never really fought. But instead, even so, on the cover they were. But I could say, Hulk a little smaller, but I could see that going on. Once you get now to Spider-Man, I'm like, what is Spider-Man going to do against Godzilla? Like, seriously, what is he going to do? Also, at the end, if you heard me talk about the last issue with Hulk, at the end I said, oh, next issue is against Spider-Man. Oh, I see he has the black symbiote suit on. I bet you that the symbiote suit goes on Godzilla. Yeah, I was right. And that's what these seem to do. But in the meantime, Joe Kelly can't get out of his way. But if you're looking forward to it, you may like it more than me. The art's pretty cool by Nick Bradshaw. Fresh from the original Secret Wars, Peter Parker, a.k.a. The Amazing Spider-Man, returns to Earth with a spiffy new alien costume, without a care in the world, except for a complicated love triangle with MJ and Black Cat. He keeps mentioning it. Like, Joe Kelly really, really, like, pounds those things into the ground and pounds jokes in, and I'm sure a bunch of you will be getting it or reading it. When you read it, just keep in mind, every time, just think of me. Every time an editor's note by Nick Lowe pops up and annoys the hell out of you, think about me then, because you'll be thinking a lot about me and my ears will start burning. They'll be sexy. Also in it, it's just, I'm telling you, there's some weird things. I'll tell you a line in a minute. But an unbelievable pressure at the Daily Bugle. Rent, bills, supervillains, and Godzilla's in New York City with his atomic breath aimed squarely at the wall crawler. I couldn't remember atomic breath. I forget what I called it. I called it something stupid. Don't miss the 2 most popular characters in pop culture history. Yeah. Absolutely going at it in this kaiju-style slugfest for the ages now. Now, this issue is being played. The other ones seem to be like, okay, we're going to have fun. It's a little askew of continuity, but we're going to put it in this framing. And you have the 60s with the Fantastic Four, 70s with the Hulk, and now the 80s with Spider-Man, and lo and behold, the 90s with the X-Men are next. But in it, Joe Kelly just kind of like, hey, let's not even pretend and let's go like wacky, and has like so many big things happen in this issue that it's too big. It gets eye rolling. And at one point, he ends up where he's going to attack Godzilla. And as he's attacking him, he says, I'm going to do what was in that movie by Steven Spielberg. And he yells, E.T., go hell. And then punches Godzilla. I'm like, that doesn't work on so many levels. It really doesn't work at all. He's actually going after the symbiote suit, but E.T. go hell, he says. And yeah, there is the issue in a nutshell. It wasn't great. So you guys, if anybody reads it, we'll be talking about it on the podcast, obviously, but I'd like to hear what other people thought of it. The other book that me and Matt did, Hell Hunters #5, something I had been enjoying. Last issue seemed like it was kind of fudging things towards an end a bit, but it's written by Philip Kennedy Johnson with art by Adam Gorham. $3.99. War is hell. E.T. go hell. The final battle between the Nazis, the Unhallowed, and the unkillable Hell Hunters, newly empowered with the strength of the Hellfire of Zarathos. The Hell Hunters are all that stand between Bruckner's undead legions and the end of the Allied forces. Will they be enough? And even if they succeed, what will they owe to Zarathos in exchange for his gifts? Don't miss this epic conclusion of the first adventure from Marvel's new Hell Hunters as a parental advisory. Now, when we were reviewing it, one of the problems, and they're not even naming because another thing shows up. You got a lot of names, like the idea where you have this cool team and they're going to go and fight Nazis. I think Philip Kennedy Johnson just added way too many things into it. It got way too big. I said at the end, it should have been more of a kind of like one of those, like, hey, we have a secret mission. You got to go. There's a castle that these Nazis have taken. They're doing expansion. We got to stop it. Kind of like that. Actually, a lot like the Stephanie Phillips Capwolf book. Like, you're doing things that are big, but not like you're going to D-Day and stuff like that. But once you start going, and I'm like, man, I want to have Bucky doing crazy stuff, and this Romero, this goes, and then you're talking Unhallowed, Bruckner. You get more names thrown in. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And the art got real muddy. But again, I think it was a pretty cool mini series overall, but I don't know. It just kind of fell flat. But I would think that some people might be looking forward to it. In the meantime, I thought there was something I'm missing because that is all I have for the deal. Actually, I will throw in the Thunderbolts Doomstreak because people were saying that they like that. I'm not going to put the Rise of Skywalker adaptation, even though Sully demands that it's great. I'm not going to do that. And there was also a weird book. I don't know if anybody's been looking forward to Kid Juggernaut. It was weird. I ended up looking through that, and it looked like it was almost like Totally Amazing Juggernaut. It looked like when they did the Amadeus Cho Hulk deal. That's kind of what I got the feel for. But Thunderbolts Doomstrike #3 is Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing. Now I know why I wasn't reading it. And it's $3.99. Lightning strikes twice. Bucky, Songbird, Sharon Carter, and the Midnight Angels launch a daring plan to target Dr. Doom's supply of vibranium. Woo! But standing in their way are the Thunderbolts. It's Thunderbolts versus Thunderbolts. Enough said. Ooh-wee. I wish it was like the adamantine, but it's the vibranium. Like it's this new one. It's taking it to the streets. It's gold or something. I'm looking now at the live chat before I go off to the indie stuff. It does say there's nothing. Oh, Universe Man says there is nothing good out for DC this week and next except Batgirl. Batgirl, they put that preview of the new arc, and I hope something happens in that. Cass is my favorite one of my favorite characters, and that book just was, again, if you have read Cass, I'm kind of had enough of her, and I know that's her mom and whatnot, obviously, but it's kind of the same thing every time those two get together. She yells that the Batman is corrupting her, and then she yells that you're evil and all that. I didn't love the first arc, but I hope it does get better. I actually saw they were having that preview. I didn't read the preview, but hopefully it does get better. And I actually I have a lot of books. I don't know what's coming out next week, but I'm guessing that I have a couple that I like. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the last Halloween, but next week we'll see. Next week, but we'll see of that. And Who Dat Nation 12. So speaking of the New 52, I finally pulled the trigger and I'm going to take on the task of reading them all, going alphabetically, currently issue 10 of Grant Morrison Action Comics. I end up, like I said at one point, we had a New 52 review podcast. We talked, or what we called it, and we were done the first round of the volume ones of the first round of books, the 52 books. So we were getting there, and then that was something that Eric did with me, and he bailed on it, so it's kind of laying in limbo. But we do have a lot of episodes of that. And there were some things as we went through that I realized, man, I never read this one, and I did like. And then there were some that I was like, yeah, I kind of remember why I didn't read Blackhawks. But Alan says you really have to be a fan of Transformers to appreciate and love the new comic. And he's right. I think so. I was getting into it, but again, the big moments just fall flat because you don't have that connection. It's connecting things, but that's why it's so popular, because there's so many fans and that's what they want. So I get it. And then Lane says he's going to end up that Japanese businessman Shindo in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Look at Godzilla in the mouth, looks crestfallen, eat Godzilla, breath attack to the face and die. That's what he says. I go. And Alan says, is Spider-Man going to wrap Godzilla's legs together to get him to fall down like Luke Skywalker? I wish he doesn't. It's more, it becomes more with the symbiote deal and that. And then Godzilla kind of like talks crap, breathes crap on Spider-Man at the end, and it kind of ends. Yeah. Brandon says, it's funny because Peter does mention the Parker Luck a lot, and it's just, you could just see Joe Kelly like thinking he's funny and just bad. I think I said it on the podcast that he's the guy who, somebody tells a joke and you laugh because you don't want somebody to feel bad. So you're like, one of your friends who, the guy who's telling jokes is never funny, and you're like, ha, that's good. And then the guy takes it too far and keeps going. And finally you have to tell him, listen, dude, you're not funny. Like, stop it. That's what it feels like. These jokes are nonsense. Also you have, am I liking the Green Arrow? This week I gave it a little bit of a better score than I have. I think the pacing of this first arc is horrible. I'm not that interested in the Freshwater Killer, but I thought this last issue was pretty good. I think I gave it a 7 something, but I have been liking it a little more. And he says just getting Ultimate Spider-Man and Red Hulk this week, but those should be pretty good. Again, Ultimate Spider-Man, I have to read last issue still. That's how down I am. And it's not just saying, oh, it's just kind of boring. But this issue has some big things I saw. And yeah, you end up, Who Dat Nation said would love to see that 52 pod come back. I'll try to figure out if somebody will do it. And Kid Juggernaut. It's pretty crazy. And Alan's going to dip out. He's going to listen to the rest tomorrow. So when he gets to this point, we can all say that, what is he? What is he? 5 years old, you're going to bed? I mean, even if you were West or East Coast, 10 well, maybe he's in Europe or something. Because then it would be real late. 10 o'clock. What are you, like me? An old man? Or whatever. See, he'll hear that tomorrow. He's not listening anymore, so we could say things to it. Oh, my. And the Ultimate Spider-Man, again, it's one of those where, I don't know. It's the best book at DC. It's the best book at Marvel, but still, it's the pacing is off on that. But we're going to go to indie stuff. I'm going to do a couple indie things here because I've yacked and yakety-yak some more. One of the things might be a surprise, but I'm going to throw it out there. It is from Dark Horse. And it is Star Wars Hyperspace Stories Codebreaker #1. It's by Ethan Sachs, who I do like, and the art by Mark Yarza and Jose Marzan. I like these Dark Horse story deal hyperspace stories. I think they're pretty good for the most part. And I like Ethan Sachs. He did a good job, I believe. If I say this, but I believe he's on the Bounty Hunters, which I did like. Poe Dameron, ace resistance pilot, and his droid companion BB-8 are sent to investigate a piece of First Order tech used to decode resistance messages. Standing between them and their objective is an infamous TIE fighter pilot. Can Poe outfly his enemy, or will the mission go down in flames before it begins? I don't think Poe's dying. Kind of want him to at points. I'm not a big fan of Poe. Not a big fan of much of Star Wars recently, but that's me. Star Wars is one of my favorite things of all time, but recently I'm kind of down. But Poe, I don't know. I like him, but he's like the annoying friend who thinks he's too funny and won't shut up. But there you go. But I do like some of that Dark Horse stuff, so I'm looking forward to that. And with that, I actually talk about the Star Wars stuff in the news of the last week's podcast that is coming out tonight. And yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the new Star Wars stuff, the Alex Seguero stuff. I don't feel any hype. I don't have anybody talking to me about it. And me and Matt, who we do the Marvel podcast, we had a separate Star Wars podcast for years, and it just ended up where during the Dark Droids event, we bailed. We've had enough. And we bailed. This seems to be a theme, but we ended up bailing, and we were going to get back to it when the new stuff starts, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to do it. The Alex Seguero, what I've read and the things that I've seen are not very impressive to me. The next deal is an Image Comics Skybound deal, joint. It's G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Silent Missions, Duke #1 by Wes Craig, art by Wes Craig and Jason Wordy, it says. $3.99. Superstar Creators present unforgettable all-new G.I. Joe Silent Missions, the face of comic books. This is the same thing they keep saying each week that I keep reading. Change for everyone. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, #21, introduced fans to the silent interlude. An action-packed story with no dialogue. And that's what I keep saying, too, because some people keep arguing. I've even said it on some of the things where you do end up having explosions, but they want to make it silent so the explosions don't have anything. But that's not what a silent issue usually is. No dialogue. You can still have explosions. Now in a standalone silent issue from Wes Craig, because I said if you're going to end up having a silent issue that way, you're either going to go to space or somebody's going to be next to I'm surprised they haven't done. They're next to a grenade that goes off and now you can't hear. So you have people going around like that. Now in a standalone silent issue from Wes Craig, Kea and Deadly Class, Duke treks through Cobra-infested terrain to find his target, a traitor who's joined the enemy. Can Duke do the unthinkable to complete his mission? That means not talk. Duke is a little wordy. He talks as much as me. So that's the thing. You can't talk, Duke. You're in a silent issue. So can he do it? On the cover, he's telling people to shush. It's pretty funny. Not that awful villain that Joshua Williamson came up that had a connection with Hush like Batman thought, which was ridiculous. Not that one. And the last one, I know that some people have been mentioning others, but the last indie book that I am looking forward to, or at least putting here, is The Rockefellers #5. It's a book that needs to pick up the pace, I'll tell you. And it's written by Peter J. Tomasi with art by Francis Manapul, fan of both, $3.99. I'm not reading the Hornsby and Halo, and I keep forgetting the order of that, but I dropped that one. That one did not do anything for me. But the Rockefellers, I do think, could do something, but you got to get going. In this, though, I have looked and I peeked at it already, and you end up having Rex. The dog is kind of an issue for him. Almost, if you are, what I think is going on and what will end up being the deal, if you are a fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and you had the Zeppo episode, one of my favorites, it looks like Rex is going to kind of save things and nobody will realize, but we'll see. When the mysterious floating eyeball sends one of the Rockefeller family members to the ER, a squad of heavily armed intruders converge upon their home. The only one left to defend it, the cute little dog Rex, prey for the invaders. It's Home Alone with Rex. Pretty cool. But I will tell everybody, if you are reading the book, you get a huge, now I remember, you get a huge reveal at the end. So wait for that ending. It's pretty crazy, but that is it. That is it for the books that I am going to be featuring, talking about. We'll go off again to the live chat. Matt Fisher joined in with a super chat that says, hello, Bart. Yes. Die, Bart, die. No, I meant the Bart, thee. That's what he meant. Yeah, Kid Juggernaut. It was weird. Kid Venom I actually liked for a bit, but Kid Venom was a weird book that you end up where like if you're reading it and then you stop and I just forgot about it. And then I was 2, 3 issues and I'm like, I don't need to read that. Maybe someday. But yeah, you end up also where Lane says last issue was kind of meh for the Ultimate Spider-Man. I agree. It was just them in that trailer park. You know, we all live that every day, right? I feel like I'm in a trailer in this studio, quote unquote. It is a box. It's like a hot box, the pickle hot box I'm in right now. It's burning in here. Brandon said Kid Juggernaut, Deadpool, and Wolverine comic drawing. Kid Wendigo, who can read this nonsense. I'm telling you, this Kid Juggernaut is weird. I don't know how it's set up. And I actually, is it possible that it's a rival scary? Because I have no idea. Yeah, Alan said, heard. No, he heard me. Oh, man. He's going off to go to bed. See, now I could say it because that was a bit ago. I'm going to be going to bed after this anyway. Again, the great thing about a live stream, I get done, boom, I'm in bed. I'm half in bed right now. You didn't even know it. That's why I don't have the camera on. You wouldn't like to see it. And then MH Comics Invictus, welcome, says, is it the Kid Jugs with a flannel shirt tied around his waist? I think it might be. I just paged through it really quick. And I swear to God, halfway through, he's like shooting hooves with Jeremy Lin. And I say that, do you remember when Amadeus Cho, I swear to God, it was like 6 months in a row, Jeremy Lin was on the covers of Totally Awesome Hulk, which as a side thing, I actually liked Amadeus Cho. It was when I first started reading some weird Marvel stuff. And we weren't doing the podcast or anything like that, but it was when that All New, All Different and all that came, and I heard everybody hated everything. So I went over, and I actually did pick up the issue of Amadeus because of Jeremy Lin. I had Lin's sanity, just like everybody else, but I ended up reading, and then I went back and read it, and I actually did like him for a while. I thought he was okay. And you have Kid Juggernaut has nothing to do with these part of the Spider-Girl timeline. And I might be in my PJs right now, or my JPs, as we used to call them. We didn't. I don't know what that even means. Deadpool Negative said Kid Juggernaut debuted on the online comics. I think he's the descendant of a Korean man who possessed the Sidorak gem. It definitely is that. Again, when I was going through it, I just paged through to see what it was and didn't really realize. And I actually thought it was going to be like a Kid Venom where you were going to go back in time and do some things. It wasn't that. And I say as well that thank you for telling us, Deadpool Negative, because I had no idea. And says it's before Kane Marco. So that's pretty cool. It just ends up seeming like one of those where you may not need that book, but maybe some people will enjoy it. But what books do you need? There's only a couple, right? The Hobbit, maybe. I don't know. BB says off topic, but does anyone know when Sergeant Slaughter is coming to the new G.I. Joe comics? I'm going to wait on reading them until he shows up. I actually mentioned that like in the second issue on our podcast, and I got crap for it. I was just joking, but I want him to show up. It'd be awesome. Yes, that would be awesome. And Alan says Jim probably wears bunny pajamas with the ears on the hood. I'd have that hood on. I do like hoodies. I wear hoodies all the time. I thought you were in bed. He's still here. He lied to us. Brandon says, I'm a fan of the Rockefellers. It's a solid book. There's just not much going on. Again, this is where everybody gets mad at me. But that's kind of, Peter J. Tomasi is good at writing the characters. They're cute. They're in a family, whatever. But the main story just is not having anything happen. This issue has a huge cliffhanger. Doesn't really push the story forward, but it does end up like kind of giving you a little more of it opens up the world or whatever. You realize some things that make it a little more personal, but in the meantime, yeah, it needs to do a little more. But that is it for the show. Deadpool Negative also says J2, aka Juggernaut Jr., was one of the debut titles of the MC2 line where Spider-Girl got started. He was the daughter of Kane Marco, who had disappeared before the start of the series, and a lawyer. All right. Yeah. I might name Sachi Iyama. So yeah, actually got me kind of pumped up to maybe go check it out then. So I'll do that. And also J2 was the son. I actually figured that that's what you meant. What do you So with that though, I thought, that's the thing. Alan, I don't know why I thought you were going to bed. He actually has some anime. I've got anime on while lying on the couch. Hopefully it's Witch Watch. I don't know what it is, but you could do that. Witch Watch was one when we had our manga podcast. I loved Witch Watch for a while, and then I didn't even realize that the anime had come out. And the other day, I watched the first episode, and I'll tell you, it's very accurate to the book. But I haven't watched any more since then because I have problems with all that. Also, what else did I read? I did watch a little of Sakamoto Days, which I loved the manga of that as well. That looked pretty cool. And Chainsaw Man, which everybody loves. I'm just the one guy who doesn't like Kaiju number 8. That's like one of my least favorite. But you end up where Brandon says, Doom reduce Amadeus to ashes. God bless him for that. And Serial Lane. I actually watched that back in the day. And I don't even mean a couple months ago. I had that. I had a bunch of stuff. If anybody's ever watched Slayers, it was one of my favorite back in the day. That I really, really enjoyed. I also like Battle Angel Alita a lot when I was a younger man back in the day as well. But that is it, a little manga and anime talk at the end. I actually have 2 episodes of our manga show that I have to do, one being me and Luke Hollywood going through Nice Prison, one of the craziest odd titles, gag manga that's actually surprises me that's in the Shonen Jump magazine. That is crazy, but that'll be it. That is it for the show. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Sorry I was a little bit late, $1 short, but there are some books coming out this week. It's always, that 5th week is always weird, especially at DC with their annual stuff and things like that. It doesn't always work out. And MH Comics Invictus says Mobland and Studio Good shows. I've done of anime to catch up on. Ton of anime. I think you probably meant anyway. Anyone watch the Terminator anime? I have not. And I thought Kaiju number 8 was just boring. We talked about 50 chapters, and I just got bored with it. I know that it's like everybody's go-to now. It just never appealed to me. I just didn't get into it. Kafka and all that. We were into it in the point where I was going through it all. Just never really thought it was anything special. I'm more like my manga reading is different than I'm not really into the kaiju or robot stuff. I'm more into schoolroom shenanigans and bully boys and gossip girls is what I'm into. So that would tell you why I would like Blue Box. I'm trying to think of some other stuff there. Prison School. Hoo-wee. But that is it. That is it. I know usually we go out with Gray's theme. I probably will anyway, but I got to pull it up because Jason ended up, we use the same software deal here, and he always gets rid of all of my songs and sound effects, which always gets me upset. So I got to pull this one up. But thanks, everybody. I am actually, and I made fun of Alan in Prison School. But I'm the one who's getting tired. I'm the one who's old. But I stayed up all night editing this last monster podcast, and I still have to recover. I still can't recover. Naruto is really good. But yeah, I don't know if you haven't. There's a couple pretty good ones right now on the just regular deal. Assassination Classroom was okay. I got into that later, but again, if you Naruto, I'm trying to think. What are the ones I could even go to the deal now? Why not? I mean, why not extend this here for 4.5 hours? We could just turn it in. You don't realize that now we're doing a anime manga podcast. I don't know if one thing, if people aren't aware, and I'm sure most of you are, because you seem like you're in the know. But the best place to go is Manga Plus. That's pretty much the best app/website in my mind to get, all of the newer stuff and read some things for free and whatnot. It's funny too. I load up the Manga Plus now to see some stuff, and the thing that pops up right away is a Kaiju number 8 game. That is it listening to me? I don't know. But yeah, Dan to Dan, I love. I'm just going through like some stupid things, but there was one I was going to suggest. There it is. There is a lot of chapters already as it loads, but it's something that I think most people have liked, and for some reason now it's not loading. And I wanted to make sure, and it says page not found. This is a disaster. It's a disaster, I tell you. Now I can't even remember what it was, and now the whole page did. Am I still on? Oh my God, what happened? What happened to my deal? Everything went down. I got to go to the rankings now. Nothing's loading up. Maybe I told everybody to go to Manga Plus, and they did, and we crashed the site, is what happened. But yeah, it's funny. Kaiju number 8 is 5th overall. I do like Spy Family a lot. Kara, I'm going to say this wrong, but if you did like some things I wanted to get into something new, a lot of people really like the Karaobachi is really, really good. And there I see Nice Prison. Oh, the Nice Prison. It's number 11. Holy moly, that thing was not very good. But that's it. We're going to get out of here. This is being extended. I'm so tired. Ooh-wee. Marshall King. Oh, and MH Comic Invictus. We actually have an episode talking about the first chapter of Marshall King's. I just have not edited yet. And Alan says, I need to pay for Manga Plus to read. Hokkaido Girls are super adorable. It was a pretty good series. Again, at one point for about a 5-year span, we had a weekly, very weekly, Marvel manga podcast, and I was reading everything. And then my man Luke Hollywood got very scarce, and I haven't read a lot or as much as I had been reading. But yeah, Marshall King's, I've only read a couple issues or chapters myself. Hokkaido Girls are super adorable. It's really good. That is a pretty fun one. That's more my style of the things there, of what I do like. But I like a lot of crazy things. I like a lot. Like Tis Torture Princess, I think is great. It's so cute. But I know it's just a gag manga that is basically the same thing each chapter, but I love it. If you ever read Don't Blush, Sakeme-san, it ended up ending, but that was one of my favorites, and that was more of a little romance type deal. And also I like Marriage Toxin. I really enjoyed that. I could just go down all of them. But Blue Box actually for a while was one of my favorites. Yeah, there's some things, but yeah, on the deal, Manga Plus is a great site. But as Alan said, if you're not there at the beginning of a series and you want to read it, the problem is that some of the older chapters would be you have to pay. You have to get their paid deal. But a lot of the Manga Plus stuff is all free all the time. So I do like it. But that's it. Now, how many times do I say that? That's it, people. That is it. Now it's right. Yeah, it's really good. That Hokkaido Girls, I like it. I like it. Yeah, actually, Don't Bully Me, Nagatoro. That was really good, too. I'm telling you, when we talk about these things, I get so excited because I want to go read manga again. But I at the moment don't have any time. But if I do end up doing it, the only way I'm going to be able to do it is to do the podcast again. And it just would take a lot. We had at one point a weekly show, and I think 7 reading clubs. We ended up having and these are still out there. They have their feeds on regular, out there free or whatever. But if you looked up Weird Science Manga, you'd find a lot of them. There's a lot. I mean, we go Demon Slayer. We have a Spy Family one. We have a Dragon Ball, the OG Dragon Ball, Chainsaw Man, Jujutsu Kaisen. What else? Death Note. A bunch of those that we have, like 50 to 100 episodes of each that are out there on feeds. We just haven't updated in a while. We haven't done it because Luke Hollywood ended up bailing. My Hero Academia as well. We got pretty far into it. So there you go. But that is it. That is it. Yeah, and if you ever get the chance and you want to check those out, you can laugh. You can go and listen to me mispronounce names on Demon Slayer because I never watched the anime. We just did the manga, and I got crap for it every episode. And then at the end, I just figured I might as well stick with my mispronunciations. And then I think that I would jump around on them, too. Just like Chris Cross. I had my pants backwards jumping around. Can I say it's over again? That's it, everybody. We're done. I got to go eat, and I have to go and feed my dog. And I have to make my keto meal, and I'm not going to drink any more of the Bulletproof coffee tonight. but I will tomorrow. And if you don't know what that is, it's coffee with grass-fed butter and MCT oil in it. That sounds sexy, but it might give you the diarrheas. And also some, that's about it. And coffee and a little bit of heavy cream I put in, and a little bit of sugar-free caramel, or as they say in Europe, caramel. And it doesn't taste great at first. I got used to it though, and it does give you a bump, as they used to say in the 80s, for other things that made you excited. But that is it. That is it, everyone. We're going to get out of here. Thank you, everyone. That ends, well, this starts the week, but it kind of ends the bunch of days in a row that I've live streamed. So if you are into that, one thing, there is no Absolute DC books this week. So I might have Gray or whoever join me on Friday night. Maybe we'll have something where maybe we rank our favorite books, talk about something like that, or just shoot the crap. I don't know. But I kind of am used to doing that on Friday night, and I don't like taking days off. So we'll probably do that. But then also the Sunday morning show, the Sunday night best of, and then this preview show. All that, just look. And if you are subscribed to the channel, hit the notifications. You'll see when we go live, and maybe have some fun and learn about life, love, and everything in between. But that is it. And now people have got me so fired up that I'm like, maybe Friday night we could come on and talk some manga. I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see what is going on. But thanks, everybody, and have a good week. I hope that you can find some comics to like, and let me know what you're looking forward to, and also, when you read them, if you like them or not. So that is it. Thanks, everybody, and I'll talk to you all later.
しました感動して感謝しました本当に大好きです私は普通の男ではありません私はもう本性の愛です私にからかわないでくださいそうしないとあなたは消えてしまいます私は普通の男ですでも私はあなたを殺します